God blessings everybody, this is the Gaming Christian 1 with part 2 of the top 100 best video games ever until 2007 when this book came out. After that there are no games obviously in this book. If you check part 1 you see what kind of games there is in this game. And now we are at number 50. At number 50 we have a Dreamcast classic. I've already talked about this in my Dreamcast collection. It is Shenmue for the Dreamcast, obviously. I have 2 discs. I've already showed you this in my Dreamcast collection. And when I said that Shenmue is one of the best games ever, I didn't overreact. I meant it. It is such an amazing video game, Shenmue. It is very ambitious and it works. Sometimes a game feels ambitious and it doesn't really work all that well. But Shenmue did work. And Shenmue is absolutely one of the best video games ever. It deserves to be in this book. It has to be in this book. It's not, like I'm saying, Shenmue was actually the first one. The second one was a little bit better, but Shenmue 1... when I played part 1 and part 2, it didn't give me the same feeling as part 1 had. So, Shenmue, a game that has to be in it. Yeah, it's like a movie. It's like there are no words that could explain how fantastic Shenmue is and always will be. But like I'm saying, it's even though the game was fantastic, the experience made it up. Because the game wasn't fun anymore after some while, it got a little bit repetitive, but its experience just stayed fantastic. It's because of the experience I even finished the game. Amazing, Shenmue. Just amazing. And number 49 is another game I have in my collection. It is Animal Crossing for the GameCube, obviously. A game that might surprise a lot of people or not. I don't know. It is an online game, obviously. But what makes it also great is the single player. This is a game you have to play every day. If you don't come back after some while, people are going to wonder like, okay, are you okay? Are you just... I've already talked about this in my GameCube video. But Animal Crossing is just one of those games that you constantly have to play it. Or at least every day a little bit. So it's like a second world. It's like because if you stay away too long, if you don't play this game for weeks and you're going to play it after a couple of weeks, people are going to wonder like, are you okay? Are you acting weird? Stuff like that. What makes this game great is the world around you. When it's Christmas in this world, it's Christmas in that world. There's whole tons of stuff to do and it's just perfectly simple. Like this book is saying right here before I'm not going to copy words, but every element is perfectly simple, but the delicate interplays between them means that each town has a tangible intricacy, by English, few game worlds has matched. So what they have been saying is that every town, for every people that plays it, this game is deep yet it's simple, and that's a good video game. Most good video games are simple but deep, and that's what Animal Crossing is. It's a deep, simple video game, but there's so many elements, and it's well done. Its presentation, wonderful. Number 48 is also a game I have in my collection. It is Puyo Pop Fever. I'm going to read a little bit out of this book, not too much. Puyo Puyo was created in 1991, but it wasn't released outside its native Japan until it was repackaged a couple of years later as Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine on the Mega Drive and Kirby's Ghost Trap on the Super Nintendo. Even then, it took a while to impress European and American audiences due to the slow-burning charm of its subtle complexities, and today it still struggles to achieve the acclaim it deserves. Often considered by critics to be little more than a poor man's Tetris clone. That is a part of the book, and I 100% disagree that this is a poor man's Tetris clone, because that's not what it is. There's a lot of depth. Like I'm saying, this is another simple yet deep game. This game is difficult. I've played this game, and it totally made me into a man, because I was crying constantly. Not really, but it's truly an amazing video game. Just how simple it is, and just how it's not a poor man's version. This game is in the same light as Tetris, and maybe that's a little bit overreacted, but Puyo Pop Fever, it's could be, it's just as good as Tetris. Of course, Tetris was way before Puyo Pop. No, not way before. I mean, Puyo Puyo was created in 1991, you know. And I think Puyo Puyo is actually the first game that came out outside Japan. Puyo Pop Fever. This was all after Puyo Puyo, obviously. But yeah, we got it, and I couldn't be more happier. But I've tried to play it. It's a tough game, trust me. I played the storyline. Of course, you can play multiplayer against each other, but trust me, the AI showed me how hard that game can be. Puyo Pop Fever for the PSP. Another game I have in my collection. This is Far Cry for the PC. This is another breathtaking game. This game has worlds to explore. It's kind of free roaming. It is on a nice island, and its level design is amazing. Its gameplay is amazing. Its detail, it's surpassed, but in this kind of graphical way, in this year, it's not surpassed. This is a game. This game costs like €2. If you see a game for €2, buy it. If you like shooters, then why haven't you bought this game yet? But it's an old game. Well, it's not like old. This is nice 3D, but for its time, this game was pretty much revolutionary when it actually came out. I mean, the world seemed so. Of course, it wasn't free roaming, but the world felt free roaming. I mean, this game was pretty much far for its time. You know, I mean, one of the things they're saying in this book, one of the Far Cry's greatest pleasures was wholly uneventful. Scribing a trail to an unwatched bay, waiting to shore a delving into the jungle. There's just exploration. And Far Cry surpassed exploration in shooters that we see today. Seriously, I mean, sure, this was all after... this wasn't after Oblivion, but it was after Morrowind, obviously. But as a standard shooter, which it was a revolution. Far Cry. Absolutely a game that deserves to be in this book. Of course, you had your different vehicles to drive. At number 46, there's Quake 3, a game I don't have either. This is another online game, like I'm saying, besides Counter-Strike, you have Quake 3. And Quake 3 is also just an amazing game. This is like, you know, of course, Quake 2 and Quake 1 and Quake 2 are technically one of the best shooters ever. Like I'm saying, Quake 2 is, from what I remember, the first online shooter game. Quake 3 is just the perfective form of those two games. So Quake 1 and Quake 2 are already fantastic, but Quake 3 just is better. And that is the whole reason to put Quake 3 on number 46. Of course, who doesn't know Quake? Number 45 is a game I've never played before, but I've heard about it. This is Company of Heroes. I never knew this game was this great until I've seen this book. It's a real-time strategy. A real-time strategy you might have never seen before, at least when this game was created. What this game does well is details. This game has a lot of great details. This is just so amazing. This is actually a less simpler game. It is deep. There's a lot of, and what makes this game great is just how there's a lot of details, because I mean, your enemy shoots at you, you have to save them, but there are bullets everywhere. I mean, this is one of the biggest RTSs ever created, because there's so much happening on screen, and you can, you know, still give orders, you can still tell them what to do, you can still save that man, you can still destroy that tank, blah 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 blah, but it happens all so fast. You need to have a keen mind, and the way they are doing it, I mean, sure, you have your Command and Conquer, you have your Red Alert, you have your Dune 2, which are also great games, but this game, you know, captures the extremeness of war. And the way Company of Heroes did that is just amazing. The presentation looks fantastic. Number 45, Company of Heroes, a great PC game. We have at number 44, a GameCube game. It is Super Monkey Ball. Yes, maybe a lot of people are surprised by this choice, but I've played this, and technically speaking, it is a fantastic video game. Not only has it great presentation, the graphics looks amazing, but the gameplay, it's challenging, and the controls, you control the world. Those physics are well done in this game. It's not like, it doesn't feel very cheap. Sure, not only does it look great, it also plays amazing. Super Monkey Ball for the GameCube, great presentation, and the challenge is just so amazing. You have great level design. It's super hard. I've tried to play it, and it's not really for me. But technically, it is how it is made is just well done. I mean, sometimes you have these narrow gaps where you have to put your ball through. But like I'm saying, the physics are so perfect that the narrow gaps are just... It feels fair because you are in control. And if you're not very good at this, like me, you will fail. I've tried to play it, but, you know, I didn't go very far. Another game, sometimes games has to be in top 100s, and this game had to be in this top 100. On number 43, Bomberman. Exactly. Bomberman is actually a classic, of course. I mean, almost everybody knows Bomberman. You just put down bombs on a playing field, playing against other people. There are, you know... obstacles. You have to put down bombs, and those bombs, after some while, they explode. It's extremely challenging. You fight against other people. Bomberman is yet again simple yet extremely deep. This game is extremely well made. Bomberman, people, amazing. I mean, almost everybody knows Bomberman, obviously, but this is maybe one of the best multiplayer offline games ever created. Sure, there's a tons of offline games that are good, but Bomberman is absolutely one of the best. Number 42 is another game I have in my collection. It is a game I personally don't like, but technically I totally understand that this game is in this top 100. It is Rome Total War for the PC. Oh, people. This game, this Rome Total War, it is amazing. It's just, I'm saying that with every game now. Of course, these are the best video games, so none of them is bad or mediocre or meh. They're all either are very good or just perfect. It's like a game that is so perfectly done and so well made that you can't say anything bad about it. You can't criticize this game. It's that good. It's a whole new sort of RTS, because what truly amazed me about this game is how different it was. You have the enemy people, you know, a whole group, and you are sitting on those horses. What do? As a group of horses, you just ride right through the group of men. You have those people, instead of, you know, attacking, you just use your horses and go right through them, like in real battlefield. Amazing. Rome Total War is an amazing game on a technical point of view, and a lot of people has liked this game, and I totally understand. It's not for everyone, obviously. I mean, it's too difficult to me. I just want to have a good time, and Rome Total War might not be a great time for everybody, but I totally understand that this game is in this top 100 best games ever. At number 41, like I'm saying with Bomberman and with Pac-Man and more games, some games has to be in the top 100, and that game is Gran Turismo. And it's not the first one, it's number 4. Gran Turismo 4, maybe the game was disappointed for a lot of people, but of course, of all the versions, this is maybe the most perfect version. I have part 1, part 2, and part 3. I'm not a huge racing game fan, but I have it in my collection because they're technically amazing. Gran Turismo 4 is actually the most perfect version, but if you have part 1 and part 2 and part 3, they're all just perfect just as well. And part 3 looked amazing for its time. But Gran Turismo is, for racing fans, it's a must-have. It's like the best racing simulator you will ever see. But of course that's debatable, but Gran Turismo is definitely one of the most known, and it deserves to be number 1 at least. Of course there are other great racing simulators, but Gran Turismo is definitely a game that that has to be in it. Like I'm saying, this is a game that has to be in this top 100. You can't ignore it. I mean, the first one was already perfect, the controls were perfect, the graphics were perfect. Yes, Gran Turismo is just an amazing racing game, and maybe the best racing game ever created. At number 40 is another game I don't have in my collection. This is WarioWare Inc. Minigame Mania for the Game Boy Advance. I mean, If you know WarioWare, I don't really have to explain it to you, but it's like a series of mini games, and you only have like a few seconds to do something on screen. You have all kinds of versions. You have the for Wii. You have a version for the Game Boy Advance, obviously. For the GameCube, you have a version. You have all kinds of versions. WarioWare Inc., Minigame Mania. You only have like a few seconds to do a minigame that comes up screen. You get like 10 minigames in a row, and you must complete those minigames. If you fail a minigame, you will lose a life, and you have a total of, lives. I don't know how much. And that's how you do it. And this system is also perfect. I know I'm saying that a lot of times, but it's true. I mean, this system is perfect. You only have like a few seconds to do something, and it's not hard to understand what you need to do. But later, you only have less time to react, and that's what makes this game extremely challenging. Not only is the presentation fantastic, especially for a Game Boy Advance game, it's one of those games that is simple but deep. The gameplay is so challenging and deep that it's fun to play. I really think this system is original. Crazy original. And number 39 is a game I have for the collection. And like I said with Chrono Trigger, that is like the king of SNES RPGs, or maybe the king of RPGs overall. But this is the other game I've been talking about. It's Secret of Mana. I've played this game a few months ago. I haven't finished it. But this game got so well with its time. This is one of the best aged games ever. Let me explain a little bit of... When this game was developed, they dropped 40% of the whole game. Just remember that you only have like a 60% game. And it's still fantastic. Maybe that's also a criticizing point. Maybe that is the reason why this game is only 39 and not higher. Because this game deserves to be in his top 100, and I am not joking. I am bloody serious, technically speaking. Personally, I thought this game was a lot of fun. It had great gameplay, worlds to explore, dungeons to see, great graphics, fantastic gameplay, deep gameplay. It's just an amazing system, and the thing is, you can play co-op up to 4 players. If you had the multi-tap for the Super Nintendo, you can play up to 4 players. Amazing. Secret of Mana is one of those perfect RPGs, those perfect games. This is also easily one of the best RPGs ever created. And there's a lot of great RPGs created in history. But this is definitely a top 10 contender. Maybe even number 1 is a bit of a stretch, but maybe even number 5 or 4. And that's debatable maybe. On the other hand, it's not debatable. It's just an amazing game. Really it is. Secret of Mana for the Super Nintendo. An amazing game. Let me put on some light, shall we? There you go. I'm filming this at night, so... Number 38, we have Virtua Fighter for the PlayStation 3. Yes, Virtua Fighter 5. It is... I don't have this game in my collection. Obviously, it's just one of those games, just one of those series where a game has to be in this top 100, because Virtua Fighter was actually the first 3D fighting game that was actually good. It's, of course, an arcade smash hit, and almost every Virtua Fighter game is just an amazing game just to have. And I guess Virtua Fighter 5 was at that time the newest one. So it is no surprise that this Virtua Fighter 5 is chosen as the perfect Virtua Fighter. And it's just, I've played my share of Virtua Fighter games, not all of them. Virtua Fighter is... Okay, let me just read this. You don't learn to play Virtua Fighter so much as learn to speak it. This is jazz gaming. Improvised, but with a structure of its own, and inventive. It's just like Soul Calibur. So many moves, so many great characters. It's challenging, but the controls are perfect. The AI is perfect. The graphics are fantastic. And even though I haven't played this version, I've played Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution. That game was already perfect. Just remember, if they put Virtua Fighter 5 in here, I guess I would guess that this is also just as perfect. And number 37 is another game that has to be in this list. StarCraft. Yes, for the PC. This is maybe one of the best RTSs ever created. I totally 100% agree that this is above Company of Heroes and above Rome Total War. Where do I even start? StarCraft is a game. You have three different kinds of kinds. You have, of course, Earthlings, aliens, and other aliens. I don't know. I haven't played the game too much. Every race, that's what it is, race, has his characters. Like, you have the standard soldier. Of every race, every soldier does something different. Then you have another rank, which does something different with every race. Then you have another rank, and so on. Like, the soldiers, in StarCraft, the soldiers are shooting. But the soldiers of an alien kind are just attacking, but they are much faster. They go in bigger packs. And there's a lot of, like I'm saying, you can totally create your own strategy in this game because of different kinds. You can play the game differently. You can have different kinds of strategy. The difficulty is amazing because of this, because it's pretty challenging, but because you have so many options with every race, it's just amazing. StarCraft has such a perfect system. Perfect system. I'm talking really perfect. That is just amazing. Not only does it look great, you know, it has your standard single player. I'm not so sure if it's multiplayer, but it is definitely an amazing game. And this is definitely Blizzard's best game ever. StarCraft, people. I don't think anybody, almost anybody, has surpassed StarCraft. At number 36 is another game I have in my collection. It's another online game. We have Battlefield 2. You know, it's a kind of game that is like, it has to be in the list, but maybe number 36 is a bit high. Maybe that's I know that's debatable, so it doesn't have to be like that, but Battlefield 2 deserves to be in this list. I would not have missed it on a technical point of view, but I'm like, oh, okay, it's in the list. It's what it deserves, yes. It's just amazing. You have your online features are amazing. You can drive certain vehicles. You have a tank. But the thing what does this game great is, sure, you have a single player. You have your multiplayer. Of course, multiplayer is the true strength of this game. It's just fun because there's so many vehicles and weapons you can use. It's just amazing. Of course, you have your different kind of ranks. Wow, this game is just an amazing online game. And what is also pretty much amazing, you can do all kinds of funny stuff, you know, with your Jeep. You can, you know, smash into other people. Amazing. This game is like a big pile of fun. At number 35 is a game I do have. This is Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. And like I said with a lot of games in this list, some games has to be in this list, and there has to be a Metal Gear Solid. And fine, they've chosen Metal Gear 2 over Metal Gear 3. Metal Gear 4 wasn't created yet when this book came out, but I was kind of like surprised that Metal Gear 3 didn't get picked, because Metal Gear 3 is just as amazing. But Metal Gear Solid 2 maybe got a little bit underrated because you play as Raiden, and because Raiden was in this game, people were like, no, this game is stupid because you play as Raiden. People has rejected Raiden. Of course, he was pretty awesome in Metal Gear Solid 4, but he was, you know, it's all about Solid Snake. And the reason why this magazine has chosen this game is because people rejected Raiden by the Metal Gear fans, and Kojima, that was his intention. He wanted us to see Snake from the perspective of a fresh recruit. You play as Raiden, but Snake is like, wow, that is Snake. I mean, you always play as Snake in these Metal Gear games. Of course, obviously, you also play as Big Boss once. And a new Metal Gear Solid game is coming out, which is amazing. Maybe I'm going to buy it, maybe I'm not. But the gameplay still stands. It's still a very solid Metal Gear gameplay. It's just amazing. Like I'm saying, you have to choose a Metal Gear Solid game for this list. Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, a sequel to Part 1. This game is better than Part 1 in gameplay-wise. So yeah, you have to choose a Metal Gear game. I would have chosen Part 3, but Metal Gear Solid 2 is also a great choice, and it's just another great game. It's just a PlayStation 2 classic, and Raiden is in it, but that's the only thing. But I don't even consider that. I mean, even with or without Raiden, it would still be a great game, technically speaking. So, at number 34, we are continuing. At number 34, there is a certain PlayStation 2 game called R-Type Final. Okay, like I'm saying with most games in this list, you have to choose a certain game in that series. And R-Type is also one of them, because seriously, R-Type is one of the most known, most famous, and even the most best shmups in history of video games. Of course, the first R-Type, and you had Super R-Type for the Super Nintendo, and all kinds of versions. They were all amazing, but I've chosen R-Type Final. I don't really remember if there was a new R-Type after R-Type Final. Irem has developed this game, and you have to put an R-Type in it. Obviously, it's like you can't make a top 100 without R-Type. Just like with Metal Gear Solid, and just like with the Mario game, or even 2, or just like with the Zelda game. We still haven't stumbled across Zelda. But yeah, or just like the other games that are in this list, Battlefield 2, StarCraft, also one of those games, Rome Total War. And it's a great, solid shmup. It is Castlevania Symphony of the Night for the PlayStation 1, and you can download it on Xbox Live, and I don't know for sure if you can download it at the PSN market, or if there's any other way to get this game, but for what I do understand, to them this is the best Castlevania, and I don't really remember what Castlevania games came after 2007. There was a lot of good Castlevania games, and some of them were a bit they've chosen Castlevania Symphony of the Night as the best Castlevania game. But I haven't really played Symphony of the Night. I have played Part 4 and I have played Part 1. I even have Part 1 in my collection. But Symphony of the Night, I've never seen it on a convention. So it's kind of like, I wonder. But I do know that this game came out in Euro. But I've never seen a European one in real. So I don't know, but Castlevania Symphony of the Night, you have to pick a Castlevania game, obviously, and Symphony of the Night is the choice of game, and it's a fantastic Castlevania game nonetheless. I mean, what is the best Castlevania is like a discussion which is not really useful. Just choose a Castlevania game, a good Castlevania game, and it will be fine. Even if you would choose Part 1, it would be just fine, but, you know, they've chosen Symphony of the Night. Another game that kind of surprises me that it got above Gran Turismo 4. This is number 32. It's Project Gotham Racing 2. And like Gran Turismo, you can actually upgrade your car. You can make it better. It's like you can make a Mini into a Ferrari, and not literally, not like you can make it look like a Ferrari. No, you can make it just as fast as a Ferrari. That's what makes Project Gotham Racing 2 a fantastic video game, because even though, sure, it's not as known as Gran Turismo, it's just as good. I mean, sure, you have your customizable games. There are a lot of cars in this game. It's absolutely the best Xbox racing game, and it doesn't really say much, of course. Well, actually, it does, but and it's like what makes Project Gotham Racing 2 great is its online functions. You can make your own car, you can share it with others, you can make your own league, this is like the best and maybe even the first online racing community. You know, you don't have a big world to explore, but you can create your own league. It's like a first person shooter online, but then with racing. Amazing. This is maybe the best online racing game ever, but you know, that's debatable, but they've chosen Project Gotham Racing Part 2 for the Xbox, and yeah, it's just an amazing game. Like I'm saying, the Xbox has had a lot of good games, and Project Gotham Racing 2 is one of them. But yeah, Project Gotham Racing 2, an amazing racing game. It looks great, but it also plays great, and its online function is the strength of this game. At number 31, we have Katamari Damacy. Yes! A game I don't have in my collection, but a game that is here. It is one of the more original games that has made this list. You play a little guy and you have to make a ball out of, you know, stuff. You roll around and it sucks up cars, it sucks up trees, and later this ball come as big as, you know, a city. You can suck up buildings, and later on this ball is even almost bigger than the Earth itself, and you can suck up the Earth, and later you can suck up planets and stuff like that. It's just amazing. I think everybody knows this type of game. I'm actually kind of surprised that Katamari Damacy is a number 31, but its presentation is fantastic. It's a PlayStation 2 game, by the way. just like with most good games, and I said this already 100 times. It's simple yet it goes deep. And sure, it looks weird. It has a lot of Japanese weirdness over it, but that's sometimes part of the charm, isn't it? And Katamari, maybe I disagree that it goes this high. I mean, this is 31. This game is better than StarCraft, people. This game is better than Gran Turismo. This game is better than Metal Gear Solid. Yes, well, it is a different game, so it's hard to compare, but, you know. But okay, Katamari is one of those games that is, in my opinion, a contender for the best games ever, and it has at least made the list, so that's cool with me. Right, we go with number 30. It is a game I have in my collection. It is a game that I consider technically amazing, technically advanced. This game has great gameplay. This game is challenging beyond belief. Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the Colossus, people. Not only does it have great presentation, the world you go through is just breathtaking. The story is pretty depressing, but the world itself and then the gameplay itself, it is challenging because you have to climb up monsters. But the way it has been done. Seriously, you have all kinds of games where you have to climb up monsters, but not like this. Every monster is a level. Every monster has a way of climbing up. You have small monsters, you have these extremely big monsters. They will slam at you, and then you have to climb up them. And the physics of each monster is just great. The AI is amazing because they are slow and they are big and they are trying to slam you, but they miss you, or maybe the earthquake throws you off, or maybe you have to hide and then he looks for you and then you go the other way and you can jump on its back. You have flying monsters, monsters under the sea, you have snake monsters, big giants. Shadow of the Colossus does a great in presentation and in gameplay. This game, it's one of those games that is just done perfectly. There is nothing wrong with this game, and you have to like this game. I mean, this game isn't for me. I used a walkthrough, so it took me a week to play this game. It was hard for me to play it, but it was technically one of the best. Really, it is. And some people consider it a sequel of Ico. I absolutely disagree with them. At number 29, there is a PC classic, another game that deserves to be in this top 100. It is Deus Ex for the PC. A game that goes so deep that it's not even simple. No, it's an RPG. It's a first-person shooter RPG, and you can modify your character to your own liking. Amazing. You can modify this character you play to your own will. You can once you go a level up, you can actually give the perk of using weapons, certain kind of weapons. You can use a perk of looking for certain kinds of objects, or go to certain kind of places, or hacking, whatever. The only Deus Ex I've literally played was Deus Ex Human Evolution, and I had a lot of fun with the game. I even finished it. I also have, for the PC, I have Deus Ex Invisible War. But it's depth. You can actually use kinds of armor, weapons. Alright, one of the things this book is saying is, for each situation you needed a plan, because JC is deprived of luxuries heroes typically count on. Accuracy, resilience, and a Polaris moral compass. It's like the choices you make, of course this game plays the way you wanted it, and that's what makes this game amazing. You have all kinds of situations. You can go by sneaking, you can go by gun blazing, you can go other ways. For its time, it goes really deep, wonderful, an original game that really says something. At number 28, we have Perfect Dark for the Nintendo 64. Let me just grab the game with it. Another game that has to make this list. Really, it is. Perfect Dark is like a semi-sequel to GoldenEye. Of course, it's not really like GoldenEye. It's not really GoldenEye Part 2, but the whole game itself, it feels like it's made by Rare. It's developed by Rare, and Rare has created GoldenEye. This game uses the same kind of idea. It's a first-person shooter with one thing, and GoldenEye might be in this book or not, I don't know. But GoldenEye, it has ideas of GoldenEye, but what Perfect Dark did differently is the level design, the story it had. This time it had voice acting. For its time, the level design was fantastic. It was a Nintendo 64 game, and the gameplay was of course amazing. You have all different kinds of weapons. The character was amazing, and there was a lot of depth to the character for its time. But it was all about the gameplay. I mean, like they're saying here, every level, every mission are just minor masterpieces. And trust me, none of these missions were too long, which I really like. But it's like, for its time, I mean, I've played this game last year, and right now it feels like a generic shooter. But for its time, when it came out, I bet that I would make this my favorite game ever. It hasn't aged well. I mean, this is one of those games that hasn't aged well, but for its time, Perfect Dark is just perfect in every sense of the way. At number 27 is a Dreamcast/PlayStation 2 game. It is Raz. I don't have a copy of the game, which is fine with me, but Raz, with a Z at the end. I really can't explain this game. I really need longer to explain the game, but it's like a shooter with some rhythm action, and there's a lot of music. That's all I can say. Let me just read some of the text here. While it was reasonable enough to name the game after an Underworld track, Mizuguchi went further and dedicated his work to Wassily Kandinsky. I have no idea what they mean with that, but it's like from what I understand. I've read this column. From what I understand, it's all about the experience. The experience is almost unsurpassed. And yes, Raz is a good video game, but I really can't explain it. It's like the strength of this game is the experience and its originality. And it's really good when a game can rely on ideas, when a game can rely on experience. When the game's experience and originality and ideas are already good enough to make it one of the best games ever, if the rest is also good, Raz is that game, from what I understand from this text. So yeah, Raz at number 27, can't say too much about it. Next up is number 26. Yes, it's a Game Boy Advance games. Unbelievable. It is Advance Wars. Well, I truly have to be honest, people. I'm not really surprised that this game has made this list. But number 26 was like, okay, number 26. That's really high. Just like with Katamari, I have my doubts, but I consider Advance Wars to be better than Katamari. This little cartridge contains the number 26 best games ever until 2007. Advance Wars is like the reason why this RTS, because that's actually what it is, it's an RTS, it's higher than Rome Total War. It's higher than Company of Heroes, one of the two best RTSs ever created. Why is Advance Wars higher than those two games? It's the simplicity. It's a Game Boy Advance game. It is just as deep as those other. Okay, of course, those games are deeper because you can store a lot more on a CD, obviously. But as a Game Boy Advance game, this game goes so deep. This is the best Game Boy Advance game ever created. There's barely any games that has unsurpassed Advance Wars for the Game Boy Advance, and maybe on any kind of handheld. Sure, that's debatable, but Advance Wars is definitely the best. People, how deep this game... Sure, yet again, this is another simple game with a lot of depth. This game is streamlined. I'm reading it here. An ultra-fast interface. It is so simple. It's easy to understand, but it goes so deep. There's so much gameplay. You can find so much gameplay on this little cartridge and just be amazed by it, how good it is. Because, sure, graphics doesn't say anything, but gameplay-wise, technically, you cannot find any games that are better than this one for the Game Boy Advance. And that is the number one reason why this game has made this list. Its simplicity. I'm breathtaken by Advance Wars. It's that good. And number 25 is yet again another game that has to be in this list. It is on the right place. It's for the Mac and the PC. It is SimCity 2000. I mean, come on, people. SimCity was the first game where you can build your own city. I think that was the first game where you can build your city. If it's not, then I'm sorry. But SimCity 2000 was just better in graphics and gameplay. It's larger, it's bigger. and why SimCity 3, and I'm not so sure when 4 came out. Was it before 2007? I don't know. But the reason why they chose SimCity 2000 is how innovative it was. It's SimCity, but then 2000. Amazing. There isn't much that I can say about SimCity 2000 because SimCity was already great for its time, and SimCity 2000 was even better. It's just so it's an enormous playfield. It's just an enormous playfield what you had to work with. That was unsurpassed when its time. This game was way before its time, and it worked. Sure, it goes deep, but it was simple to understand. Like most good games, it was simple to understand. SimCity 2000 is so understandable, but it is so big, and you can build cities so large. The newest SimCity was already great, but know this, that SimCity 2000, you can build bigger cities than SimCity that is going on now. I am not kidding. It is that good. SimCity 2000. For its time, breathtaking, and I think this game aged pretty well.